Throughout the history of all-star games and American sporting events, I would say that the two skills competitions that stand out as the most exciting year in and year out is the NBA Slam Dunk competition and the Home Run Derby for Major League Baseball. Last night's MLB Baseball inspired me and Damichael, and we're going to have a little fun on this episode. You want to know which Grizzlies would be our picks to be in the Slam Dunk competition, three-point shootout, and skills competition? Hey, all you got to do is enjoy this tasty tune, and then we're going to be right back with you on the Locked On Grizzlies podcast.
You are Locked On Grizzlies, your daily Memphis Grizzlies podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I really don't know where I was going with tasty tune, but hey, I'm a fan of alliteration, so it works. Shawn, Coleman, Damichael Cole here with me once again. You can find myself at StatsSC, Damichael at Damichael C, the show at Locked On Grizz, free right here on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button below and free on all podcast platforms. Wherever you choose to listen, that's where we will be for free. But Damichael, how are you, sir? Been a little while. I'm glad that you're back safe in Memphis and hope you had fun in Las Vegas covering the Summer League.
I had a great time in Las Vegas, Shawn. But, they always say when you go to Las Vegas, you go for about 3 days. You go for about 4 days. Anything past that, you're crawling to the end. And that was my experience. I could not wait any longer to get out of there. But with all that being said, it was a great trip. Saw some really good basketball, caught up with a lot of people, and got to meet these rookies. I think these are some very cool personalities that they're adding to the team.
Now, rumor has it that evidently Damichael decided to play a little basketball while he was on his trip to Las Vegas. So let's hope now, more than ever, what truly happens in Las Vegas stays in Las Vegas, because there ain't a darn person alive who's got a stomach to see that horrible performance. But anywho, we'll move on to more positive things when it comes to the Memphis Grizzlies. So like I say, Damichael, let's go back a bit. I'll admit I'm a bit older than you by 1 or 2 years. But the thing that I'll say is this, is that over time, Damichael, I don't need your comment right now. Over time, both of these competitions have been, about the same age. I think the Slam Dunk competition started, in 82, 83. It started the ABA, obviously, before it came to the NBA. The Home Run Derby has been going on since 1985. These are the two premier skills competitions among the major sports, I think, during All-Star Weekend. But just, do you have any favorite moments when it comes to a home run derby or a slam dunk competition yourself?
Yeah, of course. Of course. A couple slam dunk contests come to mind. Nate Robinson versus Dwight Howard. That was special, right? Of course, Zach LaVine, Aaron Gordon, arguably the greatest one ever. But there are just a few dunks that come to mind. Steve Nash, the soccer ball, when he does the soccer ball kick and Amari Stoudemire dunks it back. The Vince Carter just having one of the best performances. All of those come to mind. Home run derby, it's the same thing. I remember Bobby Abreu, I think in 2005 at Comerica Park, just unleashed. I remember as a kid just watching him hit. And that's when it was a 10-out home run. He set the record that year. So I think back to performances like that, and I remember Bobby Abreu, he broke his bat and hit one to dead center. I not broke it completely, but chipped a piece off of his bat, which was one of the craziest things I had seen to that point. And just growing up, you just watch Mark McGwire, Sammy Sosa, and all those guys go at it in the derbies. Ken Griffey Jr., had a great performance. All of that comes to mind. But Shawn, it's always fun, right? You get to see the best players do the things that they're best at, and it's all fun. It's not super, competition. It's just heavy incentivized stuff.
Absolutely. And the thing is that the NBA, slam dunk competition now is not what it used to be. Typically, you're finding reserves a lot of times. Guys at the end of the bench, you're going to be in the slam dunk competition. Where in baseball, just last night, you had Ronald Acuna Jr., Juan Soto, Pete Alonso, Julio Rodriguez was outstanding. But you've got some superstars in the game. You wish that you could have that in NBA. But listen, we're going to have a little fun. We're going to have a little fun today. So we decided to inspired by the home run derby last night. On NBA All-Star Weekend, you have the slam dunk competition, the three-point contest, and the skills competition. Damichael and I have put together a list of three Grizzlies, 3, 2, and 1 for each of these events. If we were wanting to see a Grizzlies player in it, who would the top 3 be that we wanted to see? With one caveat, you can only use a Grizzlies player once among all 3 competitions. So you're going to have 9 different Grizzlies listed. So what we're going to do is we're going to start out with the slam dunk competition and give our name and a little reason why we would like to see them there. I'll go, Damichael will go, my 3, his 3, and we'll continue on for the 3-point contest as well as the skills competition. So without further ado, Damichael Cole, the third person, number 3 on my list of Grizzlies that I would love to see in the slam dunk competition, rookie David Roddy. David Roddy, I would like to see it. And the reason why I say that is David Roddy, for a couple of reasons. Number one, I think David Roddy, his offensive mindset is something that may be a bit underrated when it comes to it. He's got, I think the word is bag, forgive my old age. His offensive bag is something that I think is deeper than others may think. But the thing that I'll say is this, is that also I think that his mindset is good. And what I mean by that is I think you've got a creative offensive mind that can put together some impressive dunks with force. I think that his overall physical presence can add a bit of force and make some, thunder happen with those dunks. So I would put David Roddy as third on my list of Grizzlies I'd like to see in the slam dunk competition.
Yeah, I like that pick. I'm going to stay on tune with you, Shawn. I'm going to go to rookie 2, but I'm going to go with Kennedy Chandler.
Ooh,
and I think, we saw Kennedy Chandler. I mean, I saw him do some stuff in these lines, and you really forget. I was talking to him after that first game in Salt Lake City, and he said, people forget that I have a 40-inch vertical. I said, yeah, they do. They do. He has easy hops, and, dunk contests historically have always been catered a little bit, it's just a little more appeasing to the eye when the shorter guys do their dunks. If a 6'9" guy does a windmill from just inside the free throw line, it's ho-hum. But if a 6-foot guy does a windmill from just inside the free throw line, he's getting a 50. So with that being said, Kennedy Chandler, I think he'll be able to come up with some creative stuff. He's a little bit on the shorter side. I'm sure. I think for the most part, with at least one of these next 2, we're going to be on the same page.
I would think so too. And with that, there's no doubt about who number 2 is. In my opinion, the guy who, besides who the obvious number 1 is, number 2 for me is Brandon Clark. And the reason why that is because he's outstanding as a finisher in the open court. He's got amazing hops, obviously, for his size. He may not have as much creativity as others in the dunk contest, I think, but I do think that he's someone who would have great accuracy. And that matters in the dunk competition. Being able to hit the first try really does matter. He's got efficiency. I think that there'd be some good fun there. But just in general, his overall ability to dunk in game and do it in different ways is quite impressive. And the other good thing about Brandon Clark is that when he lands a dunk, it's a momentum shift for the Grizzlies. So number 2 on my list is Brandon Clark.
Same thing here, Brandon Clark. He jumps off of 1 really well. He jumps off of 2 feet really well. I think he'll really be able to get creative just in that fact. He's a quick jumper. So this is a guy you talk about in a dunk contest. He can just be standing flat-footed, I think, and do a really nice dunk just from the way that he dunks. That's probably going to be his advantage. As you said, a bigger guy, you're going to have to be a little bit more creative than the smaller guy. And I think the entire Grizz Nation knows who number 1 is.
Yeah, for me, it's rookie Vince Williams. Just a highlight tape that he had during his rookie season. I'm kidding. Number 1 is John Morant. Now, whether or not we actually see it, that remains to be seen. I would love to do it. I would. We've talked about it off, film a little bit, Damichael. I would love to see John Morant be in the slam dunk competition. If it could be tied to Memphis getting an all-star game, I don't think it works that way, but I'd love to see it. But without a doubt, number 1, obviously, he's got that extra element of being a smaller guy, the hops, the creativity, the explosiveness, the hang time. I don't know if there are many other players who would attract a crowd at the slam dunk competition than John Morant. He has to be one of the most exciting dunkers in the league.
He's that talent, right? He's that generational guy. When you talk about, you mentioned the draft, the dunk contest is reserved guys now. He's the type of guy, if you remember back in, I think it was the 2009 dunk contest between Nate Robinson and Dwight Howard. That dunk contest was so good that LeBron James declared to the crowd at that game on TNT, he said that you can put my name tentatively, you know, at this moment, LeBron James will be in the dunk contest next season. Now, we know that did not happen, but it's the fact watching John Morant will make superstars want to say, hey, that'll make Anthony Edwards want to do the dunk contest. That'll make, you know, some of these other guys. It might make Zach LaVine or come back and do another dunk contest. I mean, John Morant has that type of appeal and pull, but they'll have to see, you know, what's the reward? You know, it'll have to be some big endorsement rewards and things like that, like it was for Dwight Howard, like it was for Nate Robinson, and the fact that, you know, a lot of players these days don't see, you know, the risk reward option there. But John Morant, I mean, Shawn, he put on a show.
Absolutely. And that's what you want at the slam dunk competition. It's a show. We all know the brand that John Morant is, the swagger that he plays with on and off the court, the brand that he is. Obviously, John Morant would be number one. So the list for myself is David Roddy, Brandon Clark, and John Morant. For Damichael, it's Kennedy Chandler, David Roddy, Brandon Clark, and John Morant as well. But is the top Grizzly for both me and Damichael, is the top Grizzly in the three-point competition as obvious as Ja is in the slam dunk competition? We'll look at that in just a moment. But before we do, want to talk with you a bit more about Built Bar. Built Bar is the protein bar that tastes like a candy bar. Make no mistake about it. While we're giving our list of Grizzlies we'd love to see in skill competitions, Built Bar is number one on our list when it comes to snacks. Enjoyable snacks that always make things better for you. Great taste, good health benefits, great energy morning for breakfast, afternoon as a snack. Go to Built.com, put in the promo code LOCKED15 and get 15% off your next order from Built Bar. Also want to remind you that we want to thank you for making Locked On Grizzlies your first listen of the day. But some exciting news is here as the football season is approaching. Which NFL stars move the betting line the most? Starting July 18th, Locked On gives you the 50 most valuable players in the NFL from the odds makers at BetOnline. Available July 18th, the Locked On NFL, wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. So, while we may not ever see John Morant in the three-point competition, the Grizzlies fan base has had a bit of fun here recently when it comes to the three-point contest. 2 years ago, it was Mike Conley who just barely got eclipsed by Steph Curry in the three-point competition. And then, of course, Desmond Bane, which hopefully will be one of many three-point competitions that he'll be in as his career goes on. Didn't have that good of an opening debut, but you have to think that he has one or more victories in him eventually. So, Damichael, let's see how close our lists are when it comes to the three-point competition. Number 3 on your list of Grizzlies you'd like to see in the three-point competition.
So I think this is where we'll have some differential right here. Number 3 on my list is Vince Williams. I'm going with the two-way guy. Watching this guy shoot the ball in Vegas, it's a smooth shot, and it's that left-handed shot. I mean, I love seeing left-handers shoot. You just mentioned Mike Conley. I thought he had a really just nice, pretty set shot while he was in Memphis. Vince Williams, now in Vegas, we didn't get to see him get to it a lot, you know, but it's pretty. In a competition like that, I think he could really put up some nice numbers.
Yeah, for me, number 3, it was a bit of a struggle, but I went with the guy that I think has a very pretty form, a very underrated form, and that's Zaire Williams. You know, that's one thing that I think stood out at times last year. And, you know, the other guy that I was considering for this was Jake LaRavia. But in both cases, their forms are there. It's just with Zaire, it's not as consistent as you'd like for it to be so far when the ball will go in. But the form didn't change that much. The confidence did. And as time went on last year, he did great. And the reason why I think Zaire Williams would be a sneaky good pick in the three-point competition, I think that he could dominate the corners in a three-point competition, just like his shot looked great from the corners last year. So number 3 on my list is Zaire Williams. Now, Michael, who's number 2 on your list?
You're not going to agree with this one either, and that's the best part about it. I'm going with another rookie, right? I'm going Jake LaRavia. Okay. So you mentioned the smooth shot. This guy, I mean, I mentioned Vince Williams and his shot and how easy going it is. Jake LaRavia, I mean, it's going to translate well to the league. I know a lot of people have hit me up and we've had conversations about, why is it he's shooting in summer league and all these questions. For one, teams are after that first game, he hit 4 3-pointers. he became an emphasis on the scouting report. The Grizzlies noticed that, and on top of that, he isn't getting much room. Teams are being physical with him. With all that being said, none of that matters in the three-point competition. All it is you're taking the ball off the rack, and he's going to shoot that easy-going jumper that he has, and I think it's money. I really think over the course of his career, we'll see him improve as a shooter, and he probably could give our number one guy a run for his money in this type of competition.
Let's hope. And you'd love for it to be the fact that he can give him a run for his money on the court as well. Number 2 might surprise you here. The main name is well known, but the number 2 in this slot may surprise you. I'm going to go Dillon Brooks. And the reason why that is because I truly do feel that there is some untapped potential when it comes to the consistency of Dillon Brooks embracing the role as a true 3-and-D guy. The catch and shoot numbers during his career at times have been quite impressive. In warm-ups, practice, his form seems great. I think that Dillon Brooks is a very, very repeatable, smooth form that could do him well, especially from the corners in the three-point competition. So Dillon Brooks is number 2 on my list.
Yeah, I like that. And another thing that you didn't mention, if he gets hot in a three-point shooting contest, the way he's capable of getting hot in games at times, it could really get, he could really put up some nice numbers. But with all that being said, I take my 2 guys over here, 2 guys in this competition without a reasonable doubt, because I'm sure we have the same guy at number 1, and that's Desmond Bane for me. What's more to be said, his rookie year, he entered the NBA, shot the ball really well as a rookie, came back in year 2, bigger emphasis on the scouting report, and I went to the All-Star weekend in Cleveland. The Rising Stars game, before the Rising Stars game, we had the media session with all of the Rising Stars. These are, rookie, second-year players. I'm going up to everyone, asking them, what do you think about Desmond Bane? What's your thoughts on Desmond Bane? Desmond Bane. Everyone. Every single one. Shooter. It was so clear to the fact that that these teams are drilling it inside of their, these coaches are drilling inside these players' head. He's a shooter. Stay attached. Do not let him go. I even remember in certain games last season, sitting courtside inside the FedEx Forum, you would hear, when Desmond Bane is about to catch the ball, you would hear the players from the opposing bench or someone on the court yell, shooter. Like that, he is a major emphasis. And with all that being said, he still shot, 40% from the 3-point line. So he's the real deal, Shawn.
Absolutely. One of my favorite stats about Desmond Bane from last year is that in NBA history, of all the players that have made at least 100 threes on the road in a single NBA season, Desmond Bane has the second highest percentage. 47% of his 3-point attempts on the road this year went in, second only to Joe Ingles in NBA history. The point that I'm getting at is that there's no stage that's too big for Desmond Bane to do what he does best, and I think that we'll eventually see him land a 3-point shootout trophy during All-Star Weekend. So while the dunk contest and the 3-point shootout may be the headliners of All-Star Weekend, the skills competition is always fun as well. And there are plenty of Grizzlies with the versatility that this roster offers. There are plenty of Grizzlies who could offer the ability to be very valuable in the skills competition. Which Grizzlies truly stand out? We'll look at that in just a moment. So can't thank you enough for making Locked On Grizzlies your first listen of the day. Shawn Coleman, Damichael Cole with you. We'll have plenty to discuss as time goes on. Do the Grizzlies have another big move in them? What will we eventually see once the Donovan Mitchell, Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving dominoes fall? We'll discuss all that later on this week on the Locked On Grizzlies podcast. So, Damichael, just to recap a bit, in our slam dunk competition discussion, you had Kennedy Chandler, Brandon Clark, and John Morant. I had David Roddy, Brandon Clark, and John Morant. In the 3-point shootout, I had Zaire Williams, Dillon Brooks, Desmond Bane. You had, if I'm correct, Vince Williams, Jake LaRavia, and Desmond Bane. So, go with some youth movement. And I think that it's fun with that caveat that you can only use a Grizzlies player once throughout all 3 of these options. It's a lot of fun. So let's get to the skills competition. And Damichael, being the gentleman that I am, I'll actually go first. Number 3 on my list is actually John Conchar. And the reason why that is because of the fact that, listen, may not be the fastest, may not be the most athletic, but he does so many things well and is effective at so many things. And I think that's the type of thing that really you need that type of skill set. You need that to be able to be good in a skills competition. So number 3 on my list is John Conchar.
Oh, I think our lists are going to look a little different. I had some fun with this because skills challenge is so much different than the old school skills challenge, right? The old school skills challenge, it's 6 point guards going in this competition. Now you got Karl Anthony Towns, Bam Adebayo, all these guys getting in on the skills competition now, the big man. So with that being said, Jaren Jackson Jr., right?
Okay.
That's number 3 on my list. Jaren Jackson Jr. was actually the guy who brought the ball up the court on, for my money, the most exciting Grizzlies sequence of the entire season. More exciting than when Steven Adams threw the ball full court and Ja catches the ball. More exciting than when Ja dunked over Jakob Poeltl. The most exciting sequence of the Grizzlies season was when Desmond Bane got the chase down block. The ball found the hands of John Conchar. John Conchar advanced it to who? Jaren Jackson Jr., who dribbled the ball up the floor. We saw him dribble a lot last season. Dribbled the ball up the floor, had, I believe it was Bradley Beal in front of him, set to take a charge. Big 7-foot guy, and threw a perfect lob to Ja Morant for one of the best sequences of the season. That's my pick right there. You meant he has to shoot the 3-pointer in this competition, piece of cake. He can make that shot. He can dribble. He can pass. I think Jaren Jackson Jr. will do well.
Agreed. And it's pretty. You made the parallel there. You made the connection where big men have dominated. I believe Domantas Sabonis, Karl Anthony Towns, and others have won it. Then what to say? Did Kristaps win it? Maybe not. I can't remember. But anywho, you're right. Big men have recently won it. Number 2 on my list, and he was going to be in my 3-point shooting list, but I just think that his efficiency would be so good in this competition, and that is Tyus Young. Dribbling, passing, shooting the 3, making the layup. The big key for me in going with Tyus Jones is that I think that he would get everything done one time instead of it taking him 2 or 3 times at those little intervals where you've got to do something on the first try. That is where I think Tyus Jones would excel. So he's number 2 on my list.
I can't wait to see who's number 1 on your list. Number 2 on my list. Like I said, I'm having some fun with this, Shawn. I'm going with Big Junior. Big Kenny Lofton.
Ooh.
You saw him in summer league, Shawn. You saw it. Look, everybody. I got in Ubers, and when people found out I covered the Grizzlies, every single time the question wasn't. This is the first time the question wasn't usually John Morant. It was, oh, that's the team with the big guy, or if they knew his name, that's the team with Kenny Lofton, or what's the guy's name? The left-handed guy who plays like Zebo. All of these type things. It's all you heard in Vegas. Shawn, the buzz is there. It's there for a reason. The dribbling up the court, we saw him do that. He grabbed rebounds in summer league, went coast to coast, made some excellent passes in the process. He's comfortable enough to do that. He's comfortable enough with the passing. We saw he even had some turnovers that bounced off of guys' hands that, will be turnovers on his stat sheet. But I thought he made some really impressive passes. And, of course, we saw the 3-pointers in this last game when it's included. Shawn, they were down 86-84, and he makes that step-back 3 to give them the lead, the smooth lefty. I think Kenny Lofton actually has a good chance at winning this thing, Shawn. Who's your guy?
Yeah, number 1 for me is actually going to nod his head at you, and it's because of the points that you brought up earlier. Jaren Jackson Jr. would be number 1 for me. He's called the unicorn for the reason, right? Because he does things in a big man's body that you're not supposed to be able to do unless you're a guard. The dribbling, the speed, the overall, I think his passing, if that ever becomes a focus point of him, I think he can do better than that, and the distance shooting. And plus, if the half-court shot is a part of the skills competition, we know that he's the most practice. He has the most volume when it comes to pregame festivities. So Jaren Jackson Jr. will be number 1 on my list in the skills competition.
I like that. The reason I had Jaren Jackson 3 was specifically because of the passing part. I said I questioned myself on the passing part with Jaren Jackson Jr. Whereas with Kenneth Lofton, I saw him make some excellent passes. Granted, against summer league competition, but he saw things that a lot of big men don't even try to see during the course of the game. But without further ado, my number 1 guy, who I thought should have been Shawn's number 1 guy, but I'll give him a break. It's Tyus Jones. You mentioned how smooth he is. He's the guy who's not going to mess up the bounce pass, the chest pass. He's getting those probably in 1 or 2 attempts max. This is a guy who's led the league in assist to turnover ratio. the last 4 seasons. That he's not going to mess up on those passes. Top of the key three-pointer, guess what? He was one of the best three-point shooters on the Grizzlies team this past season. He's going to nail that down. I think Tyus Young is a no-brainer for this type of competition. It feeds right into his style of play. I think now the game, when you go through those agility drills in the skills challenge where you're going left to right, shifting through the cones and things like that, it's less about speed. It's more about smoothness of just getting through in and out those transitions. And I think for a guy like Tyus Young, that's perfect. This feeds right up into his style of play. I think even just at the NBA level, period, he's someone the Grizzlies could potentially have in this competition and actually do well. That's how highly I think of him in terms of a skills challenge.
Absolutely. And so there you go. For the skills competition for myself, it was, I can't even think, John Conchar, Tyus Jones, and Jaren Jackson Jr. For Damichael, it was Jaren Jackson Jr., Kenneth Lofton Jr., as well as Tyus Jones. So there you have it. Some difference in opinions, but we kind of landed on the same thing at times. I'll tell you one fun honorable mention for me that I don't know if a lot of people would have this, but when it comes to the slam dunk competition, I would be interested to see what Santi Aldama can do. We know that he can dribble the ball for his size. We know that he's got some pretty decent hops. We've seen him pull off some pretty impressive dunks in games. So Santi Aldama Jr. will be an honorable mention for me in the slam dunk competition.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. Honorable mention for me. You mentioned John Conchar for the skills challenge. How about John Conchar for the 3-point contest?
Yeah.
That's another honorable mention that I'd like to go with. I think he could really have some fun in that. He's another guy who has a nice stroke. If he gets hot in this type of competition, I really like his chances. But John Conchar, we'll say this. He's one of the guys in the Grizzlies. You could put him in any of the 3 competitions. Dunk contest too. Now, this is one of the best rebounding guards from his time in college, and we saw it translate with the Grizzlies this past season. I mean, he had a 17 rebound game, and he had a 15 rebound game, I believe, against the Timberwolves. I mean, he had some monster rebounded performances. He a lot of it is being in the right place, but a lot of it is just simply, hey, I can leap higher than you. So he's one guy who, you mentioned the skills challenge, but the 3-point contest and the dunk contest, Jitty can sneak his way into winning one of those.
Absolutely. And there, you bring up him in the 3-point competition. I will say it right now. The most important swing skill for early season success for the Grizzlies, the most important individual swing skill of any Grizzlies player on the roster, is John Conchar's ability to maintain his 3-point shooting that he's shown over his first 3 years. If he can do that and shoot 3 or 4 a game, that's going to allow for him to fill that D'Anthony Melton role. So at least you have one of your 3 shooters back. And so that stands out. And I think that he would do good in the 3-point competition. Hey, a little bit of fun. Hope you enjoyed it. Enjoy the MLB All-Star Game tonight. We've got 3 more months till the NBA season starts, but that doesn't mean the content stops. Creative opportunities await both me and Damichael. We'll make sure that you're covered, plus all the latest stuff going on around with the Grizzlies. For Shawn Coleman, my name's Shawn Coleman. For Damichael Cole, you can find him at Damichael C, myself at Stats AC. Damichael, you got anything else for us?
You mentioned the MLB All-Star Game. How about those Atlanta Braves? 6 All-Stars right after winning the World Series. You go back in the past, right? And Shawn, all these teams, they win the World Series. Yeah, show the head off, Shawn. All these teams win the World Series. In the next year, they have these hangovers, right? And they say, oh, the Braves lose Freddie Freeman. Oh, Ronald Acuna is not going to be ready at the beginning of the season. Oh, they're still depending on Mike Soroka to get back. Ho-hum. 57 wins before the break. One of the best records in the National League. About to chase down these Mets in the second half. 6 All-Stars. Highest in the National League. Above those $250 million luxury tax Dodgers. How about that?
Absolutely. And the thing that I'll tell you is this, and I want to remind people of this, and I'm constantly going to remind people of this. Number 1, the Braves are 2021 World Series champions. Number 2, Ronald Acuna Jr., who probably is the second most popular athlete from his city after Trae Young. During spring training this year, he wore a couple of NBA players' jerseys. But the first one that he wore was John Morant. He may do the Trae Young Ice Trae celebration after his home runs, but he repped John Morant before Trae Young. All joking aside, thanks so much for listening to Locked On Grizzlies. We'll talk to you again soon here on the Locked On Grizzlies podcast.